What's good, everybody? My name is Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. If you all have been paying attention as of late, I recently posted a 30-day beat challenge to where I am challenging myself and anybody that wants to participate to making a beat and posting it to socials for 30 days straight. I've broken this down into different categories per week, and the first week that we're going to be covering is making a beat focusing on melody and chords. So if you're having trouble with that, the first thing that I would say is go watch my ultimate guide or ultimate hacks for melodies. That's like an hour long. But in case if this is the first video that you're catching before you get a chance to see that, I do want to cover like a couple of different approaches that you can use, because there's just a billion different ways to do things on how to get a melody going, how to build chords, and actually have some fun doing stuff. The real purpose behind this video, though, is to give you some kind of organizational approach to how to make a melodic beat for 7 days straight, and how to like start your next project after you finish your first beat, or like, you know what I mean, it's time to start the next one. So the reason why I think that this is important is because I proposed giving yourself a timeline each day, so that way you don't get burnt out. So my suggestion comes down to one of two things. The first one would be to spend an entire day and just make all your melody and chord ideas and put it into a folder. The second approach is to make your beat and then start a new project and just do an approach kind of like this if you're struggling, or use like Scalar or whatever to get your next idea down. There's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of trying to help set you up for success and also keep you from getting burnt out, so that way you know what tasks you need to complete for the next day, and making the writing process just like way more streamlined. So be sure to like the video and subscribe. I've already got some ideas cut down just for the sake of efficiency to make this video short and not waste your time, but let's go ahead and jump into what we got here. So I only have a phase plan instance with a sine wave, and that sounds like this. It sounds like nothing because I'm not recording. There we go. It's nothing particular or fantastic. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually just use a single note here. And because of this, we can kind of leave this droning. And honestly, you can make a melody with a single note if you want to. But the second piece to this is to put a key filter on it, to where we're going to confine that single note into a scale. This needs to be the first thing that's next to your piece of software or your synth or whatever, and I'll show you why here in a second. But once you have something like that, there's a lot of different tools that Bitwig, Ableton, whatever can use, and there's you can use Scalar, you can do stuff off your iPad if you want to, you can get some kind of Euclidean sequencer or whatever, which I'll show you here in a second. But just based off of a single note and just making that one decision, we're going to open up a lot of possibilities. So the first thing that I want to show you is, for one, we're going to highlight this and just focus on this track. But if I were to just play this, that's all it is. Now, the first piece of advice that I have for you is to actually use an arpeggiator, which is pretty obvious. But if you just grab an arpeggiator and just do this randomly and set any of these notes to, it could be anything. Because we're filtering this through this scale, you can't hit a wrong note. And so basically we turn this single note into something kind of like this. Now, something else that we can do in order to make it a little bit more interesting is we can activate the groove and then come into the global groove here and turn something on and start messing with these settings, and that'll change it into something kind of like this. Now, what's really cool about this is if we were to grab an instrument selector or something, and let's just say like that's all you wanted your beat to be about, that's totally fine. What we can do is we can go into phase plant right here and set this to record. And now what this is going to do is actually capture that melody here. So now that we have that, we can drag this in and we can save this clip to our library, and then boom, you're ready to go for the next one. But let's say you want to be a little bit more intricate and you want to, have a little bit more to base off of, or you want to build chords around this, but you don't necessarily know where to go. My advice to building chords is not to think about triads and, setting chords up together, but rather inadvertently building chords through creating multiple melodies over each other. And then what we'll do is we'll stack those in order to create a single pattern, which is what I've done here. And I'll basically show you how to do that. So all I've done is I've duplicated this And on top of this melody that I've already printed out, I'm just going to write another one, which I've already done for you. We can go a little bit more crazy on this if we want to, but check this out. This is just harmonization, right? You get into like counterpoint and all that, but I'm not going to go too complicated into the theory side of things. But this is just a complementing melody that's within the same scale as this. So now, one thing that we can do in order to make this a little bit more contrasting, I guess, is to highlight all of these and to move these maybe to a lower octave. And then what we can do is a second time to where we have another melody on top of this that is very simple, you know, just something of the sort. And now when we play all of these together, we're actually inadvertently creating chords to where some of these are lining up. Now, is it the most interesting? Not necessarily, but it's also kind of just an example. And you can also draw chords in if you want to. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, let's say you want to do this, and then let's say on this one you want to go here. So now what we can do is take a listen to all of this together. Can you hear the chords that are coming about now? Which is really cool, right? And as opposed to trying to think about changing the chord itself, if you need to, just change the melody, and that will give you a lot of leeway to not get so like caught up in like, oh, this needs to be an augmented seventh, whatever. Just make it fit within whatever it is that you're working on. So once you have a basic understanding of this, I'm going to show you how you can get all of these together. There's probably a more elegant way to do this within the note grid, but I'm going to show you how to just like consolidate. So what I've got here is 3 note receivers. So each note receiver has MIDI coming from each respective phase plant. So this is phase plant 1, this is phase plant 2, phase plant 3. The problem with this is that this cannot record MIDI this way, at least as far as I know, because you only have it from all ends. So what you want to do after you have this as a group layer or a note layer is you actually want to make another instrument track and then set this to whatever is coming in from the note effects layer. So that looks like this. We go to the note effects layer, just set it to there. And now whenever we hit record, sorry, we need to actually record that. Now, once we have something like that, we don't have to keep this rhythm or even this melody, but what we can do is we can start to take all of these overlapping notes, kind of like so, and we can just start to build chords based off of the melody that we created. And in some cases, we can kind of just leave this and have some of the off patterns or whatever. So we can do something kind of like, you see that this is going to have one chord connecting, this one is going to have this one, or maybe I'll even move this one over here to where these two are connecting now. But now we're going to have a much more interesting chord progression based off of the melody that we created. So if I were to just bring this to any of these guys and then turn off the arpeggiator, now we've got a much more interesting chord progression. And so taking this idea, you can use this on Euclidean sequencers, note repeats, you know, all the stuff that I showed you in the other video, but this is a very easy way to come up with chords that are, you know, that are going to work. And it's also a much different approach than just trying to go, you know, 4-part chord progression, then trying to make your changes or whatever. It's like, just get your rhythm down and then start stacking your melodies and use that to print that out. It's not the only way to do it, but it is a very easy way to do that. And then all the other tools that we talked about, your scaler, your note repeat, you know, you could even use something like bounce or all of the other MIDI effects that you have access to. Those just become vessels to enhance this idea as a whole. So hopefully that's some insight on how you can hack some melodies and some chords. And if you need more information, then go check out the ultimate melody hacks that I have. But this should hopefully kickstart you with getting you prepared for getting those beats out for the first week if you choose to follow the same structure that I'm going to. So thank you all so much. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.